Oh man, we got some crazy updates for you in this one. Tom Holland himself has chimed in on several Marvel things, including the progress on Spider-Man 4 and the fact that he knew that Robert Downey Jr. was returning as Doctor Doom. And we also have some more teases about Thanos. In fact, let's start with the Thanos. So, my time to shine here talking about Thanos returning. She said yesterday he will return sooner than you think. And then she doubled down on it by tweeting earlier today, way sooner with eyeballs. Now, hold up. Wait a minute. We'd actually known or perceived that Josh Brolin was returning as Thanos. A couple of months ago, Brolin himself was out there teasing that. In an interview, he said, I've heard through the grapevine that he might be returning. And there are all kinds of other rumors about this. I mean, ever since the shift to Doctor Doom began to happen, there have been other reports of a possible group of B villains, right? Other villains that would be working with Doctor Doom, very similar to what happened in Infinity War with Thanos and the Black Order. Thanos was the big bad, he's doing his thing, but he had other villains that would go do things for him. That allowed the movie to split off to do kind of a double-pronged attack. And I believe you'll see something similar in Avengers Doomsday, right? And so the question naturally is Thanos going to be one of those other villains with Doctor Doom in Doomsday? But these tweets from Shine seem weird, right? I mean, she's saying he's going to show up real soon, like way sooner than we think. And technically, Doomsday is still a couple of years off. That happens in 2026. If he is in a group that Doctor Doom has assembled, maybe like Doom's Illuminati or the Multiversal Masters of Evil, or even just the Dark Avengers, like maybe he just calls them the Dark Avengers. If that is something they're setting up for the multiversal saga, that could technically happen a lot sooner than we think, right? And I actually want to draw attention to Agatha all along. Now, a couple of weeks ago, somebody told me who Aubrey Plaza was actually playing in Agatha. We did a video about it, actually talked about it on stream, had Rob on, talked about it over there. It was a really good time. Now, that person ended up being correct, right? I mean, we don't have it fully confirmed by the show, but after that report came out, we started looking at it through a different lens, and it's almost obvious with a lot of the teases within the show that Aubrey Plaza is indeed playing a version of Mistress Death. On top of that, a couple of days after I broke that in a video, Funko basically spoiled the identity of both Teen and of Aubrey Plaza's characters, showing them both to be Wiccan and then Mistress Death. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is because the same source that told me who Aubrey Plaza is playing did mention Thanos when they talked to me. They didn't outright say like, oh, this is connected to Thanos, but they kind of just teased out Thanos like, I wonder if maybe this has to do with Thanos or something. And so could Aubrey Plaza as Mistress Death be connected to a version of Thanos? To Thanos maybe within the multiverse going around and like destroying other universes or something? I'm not really sure. Now, some people have speculated that Thanos could be within Spider-Man 4, and I just don't see that. Okay, we're going to talk about Spider-Man 4 because, again, Tom Holland just said a bunch of awesome stuff about the movie and about his Marvel return and all of that, but there's already way too much going on in the plot of Spider-Man 4, which is kind of something that Tom Holland alludes to. That movie's potentially crowded, okay? You might have multiversal stuff. You might have Andrew. You might have Toby. You might have Tom Hardy's Venom. You might have Null. You might have Doctor Doom. It's too much. Well, that only leaves a couple of other actual MCU projects, right? So that would be either Captain America Brave New World or the Thunderbolts film. Of course, technically, he could pop up in the Fantastic Four, maybe in the post-credit scene. Maybe it's Doom's Illuminati assembling at the end of the Fantastic Four movie, which would be absolutely nuts. So maybe it's Captain America, maybe it's Fantastic Four, maybe it's Thunderbolts. I'm not really sure. This would have to be some kind of a late addition, some secret that they're trying to keep, and it would pop up in a post-credit scene for one of those movies, and that would be really, really cool. But the fact that Shine posted about this again today and was like, way sooner than you think, and we've got Mistress Death in Agatha, and the source that I talked to had mentioned Thanos, I don't know, maybe I'm just like, fanboy dreaming here, but Thanos could technically be in Agatha. And look, I'm sure we'll be talking more about that on streams, and if it gets confirmed or there's more stuff about it, I'll talk about it in another video. Let me know your thoughts about Thanos, but let's get into this Tom Holland stuff. So Tom Holland just did a big podcast. He was on the Rich Roll podcast, which is really cool. I like Rich Roll. Like, I've been watching his stuff for a couple of years now. And this was a big sprawling podcast, which is a lot about Tom's actual come up in the industry, his absolute crazy amount of fame, his struggles throughout that process. But of course, he does also talk about Marvel, and that's what we want to focus on in this video. So the first thing is, This dude knew that Robert Downey was returning as Doctor Doom. In the interview, Tom Holland said, "I've been speaking to Downey a lot, especially about him making his return, which is super exciting. That was a tough secret to sit on because I have a reputation for ruining things." Now, that is crazy for a couple of reasons. Number one, yes, Tom does have a reputation for ruining things, so it's crazy that he was able to keep that secret. And I really wish there was more detail here, right? Like, oh man, I would have loved to jump in on this question and be like, what do you mean by that, Tom? But the thing that's cool about this is that this is a big thread that Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios want to play on, right? A lot of the scoopers have been talking about this. The fact that Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom, they're going to be the emotional core of Avengers Doomsday. That they're going to play off of the fact that Tom Holland will see his mentor when he looks at Doctor Doom, and that's going to be crazy. And it makes me think of all the way back to Civil War when Tom was first coming into the MCU. Now, we're going to actually draw a really nice parallel to this scene because Tom Holland talks about bringing in Miles Morales and basically says, I went to do for some young kid what Downey did for me. And what he means by that is the fact that Robert Downey Jr. took all this extra time with Tom Holland, was really supportive of him as an actor, and they worked on that first scene together after the vignette to Queens. They worked on that scene a lot, and it was an absolutely incredible scene, and the dynamic between these two actors was so good. So to take it back to the Doctor Doom thing, I'm so happy that Robert and Tom have been talking about that, maybe even workshopping some ideas together as actors, because these two men are brilliant at what they do. And for Doctor Doom to work, we're really going to need this dynamic to be nailed. This is good news. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is Miles Morales, because there's a section in the podcast where Tom says, essentially, I'd love to do for a young kid what Robert Downey did for me. And I just explained what the context of that whole situation is. But let's talk about Miles Morales, because this is actually a long-standing rumor as well. We were apparently getting into the college years here with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, which is weird, and we'll talk about that in a second. But around the time of Spider-Man No Way Home, there were all these rumors that Tom Holland really wanted to bring Miles Morales in, that he wanted to be the person to pass the torch to Miles Morales in live action. And he wants to do it in a way that Robert Downey did for him, like really take the time to work out some incredible scenes, do something really special for the fans, and allow that baton passing to go well. Because one of the things we've noticed in the past several years of comic book movies is that the baton passing is just not going very well. It's similar to what happened in comic books. Like, you look at the Black Panther thing with Shuri, it's not went over well with the fans. You look at Jane Foster Thor, that didn't go over well with the fans. Sam Wilson taking over for Steve Rogers is still kind of unproven, right? A lot of us are real skeptical of what they're going to do with Captain America 4, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier was a pretty bad show in my opinion. But what's interesting about Miles is he actually predates a lot of that stuff, right? So a lot of these characters come out of all new, all different Marvel, where the baton passing was just the total focus of the publishing line. Miles actually comes out like 5 to 8 years before that, and I love the Miles Morales character. I really like what they did with him, especially when he was younger in the Bendis and Sarah Pichelli, like, Ultimate Spider-Man, Miles Morales story. They aged him up, and I didn't like it as much. I've kind of fallen off with where his story has gone from there. But my point is, Miles was a really good character because of the way they utilized the Peter Parker of his universe. That baton passing felt much more organic, and it was much more respectful to what Peter Parker represented. And so I think it's dope that Tom Holland wants to do this, and I'm really hopeful that they do Miles Morales in live action correctly, because Miles is a really cool character, and I think very popular now due to the animated Beyond the Spider-Verse movies. I think Miles is really caught on and is really popular with a bunch of young people. I see like a lot of Miles Morales merch being sold for younger kids. Like, my kid loves Miles Morales stuff. So this is Tom basically saying that again. He was talking about this before, he's saying it again. So I expect this is something that really matters to him, and we'll probably see this go down in like either Spider-Man 4, maybe Spider-Man 5, or Spider-Man 6. Because of course, the whole reason that Tom's out here doing a bunch more press is because he's coming back to the role of Spider-Man. He's got a big new contract. We're going to be seeing a lot more of Tom Holland as Spider-Man in the next 5 to 6 years. Now let's talk about actual comments that Tom made about Spider-Man 4. Right now, that movie is supposed to come out July 26th of 2026. It will come out after Avengers Doomsday, and it's also a movie that's been worked a lot. We've been talking about this movie for like the past year, right? Originally, this was supposed to be street level with Kingpin and Daredevil. Now it's becoming multiversal. A lot of rumors of Tom Hardy Venom Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, and even friggin' Noel and Doctor Doom, right? So Spider-Man 4 just sounds wild. Well, I thought something really interesting that Tom said in the interview was about an idea he pitched. So apparently he had an idea for Spider-Man 4 that got rejected by Kevin Feige because it's an idea that's already being used in Captain America Brave New World. Now, a lot of people were like, what the hell is that? But I basically just think this is the path to the new Avengers. I think Tom Holland may have wanted to be the guy that assembles the Avengers and begins to actually get them back together because Doomsday is coming. But that is a plot line that's already going on in Captain America Brave New World, and Sam Wilson as Cap and Bucky Barnes are going to be the sort of 1-2 punch that assembles the Avengers so that they can have some formation of a team by the time that Robert Downey Jr. comes down as Doctor Doom. Okay, but here's the big one. Here's one that everybody's talking about. Tom Holland, when asked about Spider-Man 4, said he had just read a new draft of the script. And he says, quote, "It needs work, but the writers are doing a great job. I read it 3 weeks ago, and it really lit a fire in me. Zendaya and I sat down, read it together, and we at times were bouncing around the living room." Now, I actually think that's kind of positive, and the one thing I wanted to point out right away is that this basically proves that a lot of the leaks and rumors that we've been talking about are real. I'm not saying they're all 100% accurate to what we're going to see in the movie, but what I'm saying is if you think about the timing, Tom Holland is literally telling us that he read a draft 3 weeks ago, but it still needs work. So all the different scoopers that have been talking about what's in the film, but also referring to it as a changing thing, they've all been accurate. Like, it all lines up. The timing here would suggest that Marvel and Sony really do have a version of the script. They're letting people read it. They have general ideas, but it still needs work. So that's why, like Alex Perez is saying, it's becoming more multiversal as the days go on. Now, Tom also talks about sort of juggling a lot, and the most important and the biggest deal of that being his sort of re-entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And he doesn't give us a ton here, but you can kind of see that this has been interesting, right? That Sony and Marvel are sitting down. There's a lot of different ideas flying around. He's kind of in that creative process now. He has some things that he wants, which is the Captain America thing that then, you know, can kind of get shut down. But I came away from this part of the interview just feeling that Tom is expressing that his re-entry is really tricky. And I think that's just obvious, right? Because of Doctor Doom coming in, because of this sort of pivot into the multiversal saga, they really need to nail that. I think that's the most important thing. So you saw a lot of people yesterday online in, you know, certain social circles on like Twitter and, you know, Reddit and stuff, basically taking this interview and expressing concern over this juggling, over this re-entry, and the fact that this movie now is being reworked to fit into the plan better. But he's saying that it lit a fire under him. He later says that fans will feel very respected by this movie as well. So he's saying a lot of good things. I'm pretty optimistic about how this thing is going to work out. And my personal feelings, just given all the rumors that we've had, is that they have an emotional core, at least a core starting place, which I think will just be Tom Holland being Spider-Man, you know, having some villains, dealing with going to college. But then the movie's going to become a cosmic or a multiversal adventure, and that's just what it needs to be to tie in better with the overall story of Marvel. So I think it basically just confirms everything we've been talking about is legit. There are these discussions being had. The plot points that we've talked about are probably on a whiteboard somewhere. They're trying to draw how to get this thing together. But Tom is happy, he's committed, and he thinks fans are going to love what they have already. Now, I did see, like, the Hollywood Trades. It was really weird. The Hollywood Trades came out and essentially grabbed up on the fact that the script needed work. So I personally saw a bunch of negative headlines where different people were like, yo, this thing needs work. Oh, no, Spider-Man 4 is in trouble. Now, a lot of them actually changed it to be more positive, right? So Disney was like, hey, we don't like what you're doing there, man. Like, he said this. Put that in the headline, motherfucker. But I also think it's fair that the script does need work, that they are workshopping it, right? So Spider-Man 4 is still kind of in a dynamic state. Maybe that actually is concerning to you. So for me, I think just number one, it's so cool that Tom's out here discussing this stuff, talking about his re-entry. He's been talking to Robert Downey Jr. There's a lot of stuff here that I'm excited about, but I will also acknowledge that this is a tenuous time right now. And some Marvel fans are like, bro, are we really doing this? Or is this just like a break glass in case of emergency thing? And there's a lot of concern about the quality of the ending of the multiversal saga. And so for those people, possible, I guess I would say. I think a lot of the reports we've been talking about are real. I think Tom's kind of confirming that here with the timing of him reading the script 3 weeks ago. I think he's speaking to how dynamic the process is, and I think he is saying that the script still needs work, so maybe you're concerned about that. Either way, let me know how you're feeling in the comment section below, and as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.